Second.
Yeah, it says we're live on my screen.
Yep, we're live. Hey, folks.
Hi.
Hey, everybody. So glad to be here with you on this dark Sunday evening. I still am not, is it dark where you are yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dark. Yeah.
I still can't quite get used to it. So, friends, it's Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I am here with our friends Steve and Gretel Adams of Sunny Meadows Flower Farm. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Lisa.
And I know these guys are poop. They are doing so much on their farm, but they have joined us tonight to share a little bit of kind of what is going on. And we're going to talk about a little bit about their course and what you guys are learning there. And so if you have questions about the course, we are happy to answer them. And I promised on social media today that I will be asking Steve and Gretel some questions about what they've been harvesting and what they're planting, so we can kind of get a feel about what structures can do for us, right? So I see that we have folks from all around coming to us. So I'm watching us on Facebook. So you guys over there, remember, if you're one of our students of any of our online courses, we love it when you comment with the little sunflower emoji. That not only identifies you to us, but also to your classmates, perhaps. And it's just a great connection to make. So we love it when you all do that and tell us where you're from. So Steve and Gretel, I want to just right out of the gate, tell us a little bit about, this has nothing to do with your course. So y'all have been digging and selling dahlias. So how's that going?
Good. Friday was dahlia launch day. This year we had two diggers. You know, every year our systems get better as far as like weed control, and we hill the dahlias so that kind of like you would potatoes to like grow the tubers. And so every year the care gets better, and this year was a really good harvest. So our team really did a great job too. We had two diggers going at the same time. So, you know, we got 50,000 dahlias out of the ground way faster than expected, which was good because some of our team went home to Mexico end of October. So the goal was to try to get as much done as we could before they left. So we've got one whole bay in one of the greenhouses that is dahlia tuber storage. So they're all stacked up in there and
Ready to be divided.
We got a lot of dividing to do this winter. So
I think I saw that on your video, and it was pretty dadgum impressive. So folks, again, if you have questions, post them on Facebook and we will pick those up. But I have some questions that folks have been submitting to us. So if you're not familiar, Gretel and Steve have created an online course called Growing Cut Flower Crops in Hoop and Greenhouses. And it's one of our 6-week courses, and it is packed, y'all. And it's broken up into 3 sections, and each section has 2 classes, and a week is a class. And they're all recorded. And what happens is, like, let's just say on Monday morning of week 1, your classes are loaded into your online library, and you get just all of these handouts and recordings to watch. And then at the end of that week, you get a Q&A coaching time with Steve and Gretel answering your questions that you've submitted, and then even take some from the floor if there's time that allows for that. So we're just grateful to have Steve and Gretel. While their operation is big and booming, like if you don't follow them on social media, you've got to. Sunny Meadows Flower Farm, because they post lots of videos and images of just the vastness of their operation. But what we're going to talk about tonight is, it didn't start this way, friends. They started just like the rest of us, one little house at a time. So Steve and Gretel, tell us just a little bit kind of how you guys got started as far as houses go, how that kind of started ramping up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, when we started putting up greenhouses, the intention was to grow lilies and like spinach and lettuce and carrots over the winter. So it actually wasn't really an idea of ranunculus and all that at that point. And so we kind of slowly every year just added one greenhouse every year, or hoop house, an unheated structure every year. Yeah, and so that's kind of where it started.
We started out with 2 unheated tunnels. So that's what we were growing greens, and then we were just trying to extend the season in the spring, like trying to get things like flowers. You know, I think we planted like larkspur in there one year. Like we had no idea what we were doing, or like crop selection or whatever. There wasn't a lot of information out there. You know, we've been farming for 15 years now. So, you know, the ASCFG was our main like resource, but there wasn't like, I wish this class existed when we started, but
most of the information that was out there was Elliot Coleman, his winter greenhouse growing books and stuff. So that's what we were kind of digging into, and that's where we kind of gained the basic knowledge is from reading his books about how he grows vegetables.
And a friend of ours, well, a lady that wrote an article about us also like did an interview with him. And so we got to like vicariously ask a question to him. And it was about like what flowers, you know, like he would suggest. And his thought was like, you never know until you try it. And so that's kind of like what, you know, what we've been doing. And that's and we're still doing, you know, the fact that we have stock right now is like, it's the first time that we've ever hit Thanksgiving with it. And that was the goal. So it's like, we're still working towards, you know, we're still learning about the crops and how we can push it. And so, the goal is with the class is to like share sort of where we're at now. So that way you can work towards that, and then hopefully build on that knowledge, start with that and not have to like start from scratch. So, but when first we had 2 unheated tunnels, those were our first. They were 30 by 96. They were Farm Tech kits, and they were unheated to begin with. And then our first heated structure, I was tired of washing salad greens outside in December. So we bought a used one. That was our first used one. There was a greenhouse down the road from us that went out of business, like a nursery. We bought a used one, and we had a wood burning stove. And we did one winter with a wood burning stove, having to load it every 2 or 3 hours. It was like a newborn child in the middle of the night. And that's when we started adding gas to them, because we were like, there's no way that we can, you know, have this little wood stove. And, you know, the winter's supposed to be like a little more restful, change of pace. But when you have to wake up every few hours to like add wood to the fire, it wasn't a sustainable method. So we started adding heat, and then we started figuring out more about flower planting dates and stuff.
So we started out, you know, unheated, growing veggies and trying lilies and trying different things, and
starting seeds in the basement under lights, and moving plants in and out of the garage when it was going to be cold enough and stuff, you know, before we had a seed house. So we definitely started from scratch, you know, and that's
right.
So where we are now feels like it's not applicable to you. You know, we could talk about if you're just starting and you're just doing unheated, here's what I would start with. Here's how many sessions we do. And then also here's what you can do with the heated houses. So like maybe not everything would apply to you now, but it would be something that you could refer back to, you know, as your business grows.
Totally agree with that. I mean, so it'll help people to know. So what the next question is, what regrets have you guys have growing in structures? And I've had a couple of questions kind of like this. One was like, you know, when you didn't know what you were doing, how did you know what style? I mean, you're going to help them figure out which style a house and what size. I mean, all of that kind of pertinent information, right?
Yeah, I would say if we have, I mean, any regrets, it'd just be maybe the choices of greenhouses we used at first, the style of greenhouse, the location, I would say has been somewhat of an issue at times. So I kind of wish that I would have.
We like put them in the back corner when we started, and then it was like, well, if we're gonna add like utilities to that, that's pretty far to like run like electric and water. So that's some of what we talk about too, is like location, thinking about drainage, thinking about where your utilities are available.
just thinking about those things. And it doesn't mean that when you build a greenhouse, it's going to be
Ideal.
Yeah, an ideal situation, but
Yeah.
just knowing what are the possibilities that could come up. Drainage has been an issue for us, but we've kind of been able to manage it with just a little bit of extra work here and there. But it's not necessarily the ideal location, but it's still manageable. So knowing that situation might come up. But as far as like any crops that we've done in the greenhouse, or as far as any of that stuff, I'd say we have no regrets, because we've been able to pull information and learn from situations. And so I don't regret a mistake or something if I learn from it too sometimes.
Oh, sure, for sure. And so somebody asked that lives in heavy snow load. There is a big difference between people that live in the South that don't get snow load and those that do. And you guys have firsthand experience, right? Because you get significant snow where you are, right?
Sorry, go ahead. Okay.
We get heavy snows during like November, December, where the temperature is kind of in between freezing and above freezing. So the snow is a lot heavier, the flakes are a lot bigger. The snows that we get, and most people with heavy snow loads, a lot of times those are lighter, fluffier snows. But we do have experience with losing greenhouses. We've lost a couple structures to snow load. And, I think a lot of that will break down in the class, talking about greenhouse style and choices. There's plenty of Canadian style greenhouses that are built all over Canada that can handle heavy snow. Armoire is one.
So I would say, like, if you're in a place like that, I mean, the things to take into consideration would be the style of house that you're going to get. Maybe it needs to have more bows, or it needs to have more purlins, it needs to have more support. We have one greenhouse that we bought used that the guy said made it through the blizzard of 76. So I don't know what that means, but sounds like it's been standing since then. And then we talk about in the management, going out and scraping snow off of your greenhouses. We like leave enough space between greenhouses, so that way if you have to go through and get rid of like a wall of snow where it's kind of fallen down in, that you have the ability to do that. We fortunately don't usually have to do that. I know our friends in Massachusetts and in Michigan and other places, have to have big snow blower machines to kind of like get the snow away. So it just means more management, or if you're going to add heat, you can turn the heat up.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more cost, a little bit more investment up front,
right.
A stronger structure, because some of the structures we have are cheap, structures that don't have any extra special, they don't have trusses or anything. So sometimes we're a little worried about that, but if you get a house has trusses and framing, special framing and stuff, then there's a lot of houses that can withstand a lot of.
So it can definitely, you address that kind of stuff. So I think that's what people were just she was looking for. And so here's the $1 million question. So what do y'all do in the houses during the summer? Or is anything growing in there, or what's happening there?
So we go from ranunculus in the spring, and then when the ranunculus comes out, the rotation of the bed is ranunculus into lisianthus, or something similar like that in the spring, or snaps and stock into like winter crops. So in the summer we've got a lot of lizzies in the tunnels, Dusty Miller, eucalyptus, but we also are planting stuff for fall. So everything that's blooming now, like the mums get planted in June, when the ranunculus comes out. So it's like, so there's always something in the beds. It's a pretty tight rotation as far as like, I know when stuff's going to get ripped out means that's when stuff can go in. And we talk about that too, a little bit about crop planting stuff. So even though things aren't blooming for us January, February, there's a lot in the greenhouses. We've already planted the first of a lot of the things that are first spring crops, right?
Yeah,
We could
so-
have freesia or ornithogalum.
So the way to think about it is, we plant now, let's say we plant October, November, December for harvest, March, April, May, and then we plant June, July for harvest. So we have like our winter crops, our spring harvest crops, and then our summer, fall harvest crops. So we're kind of getting 2 seasons, spring and late winter, early spring harvest, and then early summer, fall harvest.
And that's something that y'all talk about in the class is crop planning and coming and going, because I think that people are really overwhelmed and really interested in that. So I do have some questions over on Facebook that I want to address. And so for folks that have joined us, we're talking to Steve and Gretel Adams of Sunny Meadows Flower Farm, and they're located in Columbus, Ohio, and they have an online course called Growing Cut Flower Crops in Hoop and Greenhouses. And their enrollment, as all of our big classes are, is only once a year for 5 days, and theirs is open now until Tuesday night. The course is $595, and it is slam packed full of information, friends. And we do have a payment plan if that'll help you out. All that information is over on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. And Steve and Gretel, so I want to talk, Steve and Gretel have 2 farms, right? You have a home farm, and then you have some land that you also grow on. And they're a big operation now, but they did not start that way. And they have a lot of houses, and they've got tons of experience. And that's what they're packing into this course. So Gretel, I'm just going to read the weekly title of your classes. So week 1, y'all talk about structure, types, location, deconstruction. That means like taking a house down, like if you bought a used one, taking it down and then reconstructing it, or actually just building from a kit, right? That's the whole first week. The second week is creating a successful plan of action, and that is crop planning, sales outlet, and seed starting. Week 3 is spring blooms. This is the class that everybody wants, right? This is all about ranunculus and anemones, and talking about growing in heated and unheated houses. So you don't out of the gate have to have heat, right? I mean, there's plenty to grow in unheated structures. It's just a little different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're zone 6A, and our unheated stuff, you could have stuff blooming for Mother's Day unheated. So we talk about that. Yeah. 5B. Yeah.
And then class 4, which is week 4, is blooms for the summer and fall, which we just talked about. The Lizzie Anthus that you guys had this summer was absolutely, that stuff was like 4 foot tall, wasn't it? I mean, it was ridiculous. It was amazing. So that's week 4. Week 5 is, as I love the way that Steve said it earlier, I don't know if it was on our podcast or what we were doing together, that y'all put the pest and disease issues at the end of a class, after you've baited everybody in with the good stuff. So week 5 is caring for the plant's environment, which is basically managing the houses, right? And what I've gathered from talking to you guys is that ventilation is king, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that no matter what level or however many greenhouses you have, if you have 1 greenhouse, you have 100 greenhouses, it's all the same. And so the techniques that we talk about for managing the environment are applicable to unheated structure all the way up to whatever,
Plants still need air, whether they're in a small greenhouse or a big one.
Exactly. And then week 6, and this is so funny, I was talking to one of your students, Wendy Brubaker, and she is in Pennsylvania, I think. And she had just got a house last year. And while I was talking to her, she said, yes. And just as Steve and Gretel have said, I don't have pest and disease yet. She knows that it's coming, and I love that you mentioned that it's like the first couple of years, you feel like you're scot-free, perhaps, maybe, but they're coming. And so week 6 is all about pests, disease, and soil management. If anybody wants to see the outline of the class, you can go to the course page and check that out. And so I'm going to scroll over. I want to ask you guys and let you chat about it while I get the questions from Facebook. Tell us about what crops you have been harvesting this month from your houses, and then what you expect to harvest in spring earlier than you would because you have houses. And I'll get some questions over here.
Yeah, so right now, in November, we've been harvesting from the heated structures, mums, stock, fall dahlias. What else was in greenhouse 5? There's eucalyptus that was in there from the spring. We had a bed of celosia that we did in a heated house just as a trial that worked out. It actually didn't frost here till November 3rd. So we had, which is the latest ever since we've been farmers. And so we had some stuff in an unheated structure just to test it out that worked, that we were able to harvest through end of October. So in unheated structure, we had some mums in there, which we lost when it got that cold. We had some gomphrena, celosia, snaps, marigolds. We have a lot of marigolds, so that's something that's really important for us at the farm. We've got some workers that are from Mexico, and so we like that. Have marigolds for Dia de los Muertos. So some of them were unheated and some of them were heated that we were harvesting for the holiday.
We had a stock planting in the high tunnel or unheated structure that didn't it wasn't early, and it wasn't planted early enough, so that we lost a good sized bed of stock. Just it wasn't dead, but it wasn't going to keep flowering. It was just dormant.
Our Lizzies were in their second flush, but what happens when it gets really cold is that the condensation dripping from the change in temperatures of it being so cold at night and then maybe sunny and warm during the day, when that melts, sometimes the condensation ruins the Lizzies. So we did end up ripping those out, but we got some of them. I'd say into November. She was just asking the past month. Yeah. I think it was just a couple weeks ago that we ripped them all out. So,
and then we're harvesting cabbage. We've got a house of flowering cabbage.
That's unheated.
We like growing it in the house just because we have the bed space. It gets really tall and nice in a structure versus outside. It's not as consistent. And so, anything that you can grow in a structure of some sort just is more consistent. The product is more consistent. And that's kind of what we're going for with bouquets and with our florist sales, is a consistent product.
I guess there's still some lilies in the heated house too. Yeah.
Lots of mums.
A lot of mums.
I have a mum question for you. So someone has asked, do you keep mother plants for your chrysanthemums and take cuttings to root in the early spring?
Yes. Yeah. So we select and dig up plants and then keep them heat over in a heated house. Same thing with our geraniums. Those are also from cuttings from mother plants that we keep in a heated house over the winter.
And we don't normally start taking the cuttings until end of April, May. We'll take some cuttings before that, but we don't start taking cuttings until a little bit later.
Closer to spring. Yeah. We don't want to have to pot them up. So we want to root them and then plant them where they're going to go.
Right. And so the mother plants that you move to the heated house, do you put them in containers or are you planting them in the ground to winter over?
We're planting them. We do two styles. So the old style that we have always done is plant it in a bulb crate with 5 or 6 other plants of the same variety in a bulb crate. What we did this year was we did a final session of propagating mums, and so we propagated them, stuck them, and then potted them up into a 4-inch. And so maybe the idea, instead of having all these bulb crates that we're overwintering every year, it's just creating our own new stock plants or mother plant
from propagating.
In the summer.
Because if you keep them for too long, you want to refresh them. If you keep them for too long, you can get white flies and attract other pests, scale and stuff like that. So
So Brandy asks, how do you keep heating expenses down from greenhouses?
We're only heating to what like
50, 40, between 40 and 50, depending on what's in the house and the structure. You know, we're on natural gas. I think natural gas is the best way to go if you have access to it. I'm not really, I have efficient furnaces and I have plenty of horizontal airflow fans to move air, but I'm not really keeping the expenses down because I know that the expenses, the upfront cost of heating the structure pays off when we're harvesting the product and the product is nice and big, a big bloom on it, consistent, you know, so the reward is I can sell that product for more money, or, you know, the market, I can tap in, I can hit a new market with early ranunculus. So
the heated ranunculus is always the best. It's the biggest blooms, the longest stems. It's like stuff that kind of grows. These cool weather crops, they want to grow like low and slow, you know, and so that really helps them like stretch out. So it's worth the like quality if you know you have a market for it. And that's part of what we talk about in week 2 is we've run enterprise budgets. So we've tracked like all of our inputs and all of the things that it took to get that crop, to know like the profit per square foot per crop, whether it's heated or unheated, or, you know, stuff that goes in the field or whatever. So we have that like data to know based on your sales outlet. So it all just depends on, you know, if your market doesn't start until June, then you might not need stuff that blooms in April, but kind of thinking about that part of it too, as you extend the season, like what is the plan for where these things are going to go. And that is kind of what had shifted our business. You know, we started with the farmers market, and then started selling to grocery stores. And then it was like, once we started with florists, you know, we wanted to be in with those florists for as long as possible in the season. And so if we can get in with them, you know, like in March when stuff starts blooming in the heated greenhouse, then they're already in the habit of buying from you before like the flush of summer stuff comes on, instead of like calling them and saying, you know, I have 100 buckets of sunflowers or whatever, and just trying to like push the summer field stuff, like giving them some of what they want in the spring, helping them through the floral holidays in the spring, and then they're already like set up buying from you by summertime.
But going back to actually answer the question a little bit more in detail, you know, the structures that have heat have a double plastic with air in between the greenhouse plastic. So that adds a level of insulation. And so, and I inflate the sides on some of the structures. I keep them pretty tight. I build them tight. So I'm trying to hold as much heat in as possible. But knowing and being okay with the fact that it's going to cost a little bit of money up front, in December and January, February, knowing that the reward is kind of coming in March. You know, we wouldn't be adding greenhouses, and especially adding heat to greenhouses, if it was something that we weren't obviously seeing a value on the back end of it. We wouldn't be doing it. So it's just trusting in that expense, that upfront cost, and knowing that you're going to get something on the back end.
Yeah, knowing that the return is worth it. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's more of a business thought than staring at, I mean, I understand people's reluctance to think, oh my gosh, you know, so-and-so said their, you know, propane bill or gas bill was XYZ, but you have to have a bigger snapshot of your business, right? Like y'all talk about the enterprise budget. You have to know that that's just what your investment that's required to get the product to sell to the customers that you're going to sell to, that bring in the cash flow, right? I mean, it's really easy when you don't have somebody with experience to talk to, you know, and share. So that's what I think is part of the real value of this course, is for you to say, we've been there, we've lost a house to snow. We now are like, know what we're talking about how to keep snow off your houses and where to go to get a house that'll stand that. Because we have several people commenting that they live in a heavy snow load. So Elder Acres says, great class. I took it last year and have been referencing it frequently in the past few weeks to get my ranunculus ready to plant in the unheated hoop house for the spring. Awesome. So I'm saying, okay, Renee asks, I'm wondering if this course will help me in Northern Florida in zone 9A. I have no clue.
So, I mean, your planting dates will be different than what we're talking about. And so that you would have to change based on, I know if you're further south, you know, some of like Rita from Cuts of Color has dahlias that she plants, you know, in the fall, and then they bloom for her through the winter. And then by the summer it's too hot. So the planting weeks would need adjusted, but all of the management stuff that we're talking about, all of the, how we plant, you know, ranunculus, soaking it and starting it, and the crop planning and the decision making and stuff like that, all of that would apply too. So it would be mainly just the planting weeks themselves that would need shifted based on that. And I would contact, if there's a grower, you know, near you that's in your zone that could give you an idea of like what, where the starting point is. And then that way you can kind of like adjust our planting plan by that many weeks, kind of all the way through.
Sure. And a great example will be tomorrow on Instagram at noon. I'm talking to Jonalyn Craver from she's in Florida. She's one of your students. So I'll be talking to her tomorrow. So you might Florida, where's the Florida person? Check that out tomorrow, Renee. And then Nancy says, do you move heat above ground with heated and wall fans? Will you discuss in your course types of heating styles and airflow?
Yeah, we will talk about the different styles. You know, we'll go over kind of a little bit of what happened when we tried using a wood burner. And then we'll talk about for like blown air, like shop heaters or Modine heaters.
All right.
And then ventilating also with and using half fans or horizontal airflow fans. So how to set up the fans on the inside of the house and stuff. We'll definitely touch on that stuff.
So Janet asks, and I think I know the answer to this, can you start mums from seed or only cuttings? Cuttings, right? For the ones that we grow for cut flowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So Terry asks, when do you transplant Lizzie's into the high tunnels? And which are your favorites?
They start going into the unheated structure week 14, and everything we do is by week numbers. That way it's transferable from year to year. So if you don't know when that is, you can use the Google Calendar. You can turn on the week numbers.
It's March. March.
Yeah,
March
end of March. Yeah. So that's when they go in. And our favorites, well, Corelli Light Pink is our top seller. Lizzie's have different series. So there's different ones that can grow at different times of the season. So in order for us to have white for an extended period of time, we have to grow multiple different varieties to keep it going through the season. So we have our favorites, but we also rotate through the different ones as we move through the season. So we always have a white and we always have purple or blue. Sometimes
ABC, Echo are good ones to start with, especially. So
there's a lot of guys coming out with a bunch of new ones. Yeah, Voyage, those ones are always really popular.
Voyage, I grew that last year. That was pretty awesome. And how about Rose and Green? Holy cow. That was a great green one. So y'all have been really generous with your time, sharing some of your tips, and just to let everybody know. So Their course is on sale till Tuesday night. Please check it out. I'll actually be live on Instagram at 8 o'clock tonight with another one of their students. I'm talking to an Alaskan peony grower that took their course, Wanda
Cool.
of Fox Hollow. I hope I
Cool,
said
yeah.
that right.
Yeah.
Fox Hollow,
Uh-huh.
peonies. And it's just really great to hear what people take away. Because I'll tell you, every time I talk to students from our courses, any of them, I hear a different perspective I haven't even thought of yet. So join me tonight at 8 o'clock on Instagram, tomorrow at noon. And we'll be just answering questions about how the courses work. And I think the takeaway for me that people seem to be most surprised about the courses is, first off, you have lifetime access, which means you can watch it as many times. So like if you're a newbie, you're going to pay attention to what they are talking about, of which kind to buy and where to put it and all of that type of stuff. But a year from now, when you're running into how are we supposed to vent that? You can go back and revisit all that stuff and add more crops. And and there's also a closed Facebook group that goes along with the courses that people can do as one of the options. And then the best part, as far as I'm concerned, is we have alumni class groups. That means even after school is over, there's a group where you're in with all your classmates. You can support each other. Gretel and Steve drop in, answer questions, and we just do our best to help everybody do what we're all talking about, right? Become professional cut flower growers. And that's kind of where we're coming from. So thegardenersworkshop.com is where you will learn more. And I'm just looking, so we don't have any more questions right now. So is there anything you guys would like to say before I sign off here and let you go back to work?
Yeah, I think just, I think that looking from it from an outside perspective, it seems like it's a lot. But for 13, 14 years ago, we were growing on a quarter acre, no greenhouses, no background in farming. So all of this has just been, every year just kind of learning more, taking on more. And so I think that, drawing from that 13 years of greenhouse growing experience, we're going to be talking a lot directly to people who are newbies, or, a couple years of experience,
Right.
kind of going through some of the processes that we had already gone through and some of the mistakes we made, to kind of help lighten that mistake load that some of these other growers might take on. So
Sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I didn't mention, if you have taken any of our online courses, that means that you're in the TGW family, which means you have a special price. It's $50 off, and you would have gotten a special email with the link to buy it. And if you didn't get it, you just need to either call the office or shoot us an email, and we can get you squared away on that. I'm sorry, go ahead, Gretel. Did you want to say something?
Well, my message to growers is, if you've been thinking about it, then now is the time to make the jump. People are always so hungry for spring blooms, ranunculus, and even during the times when, during COVID times when money was tight, it was like flowers were there for people, and the demand for local stuff is growing. So don't be afraid to make the jump. We know farming is the path less traveled. Our family definitely thought we were crazy for wanting to be farmers. And so, if you're fighting against that, it's okay. We went through that too. And, what we like to talk about to farmers about is this kind of scaling up. You've started and, you have an idea of maybe what you want to do, but you're kind of scared to make the jump. What we like to talk about is scaling up. What is the next step for you? Is that a greenhouse, having employees, stuff like that? So it's just important for us to help encourage growers to continue on their path, because we know it can be scary to take the risk, but the reward is worth it if you can, manage it properly. So,
well, thank you guys so much for joining us here. And we'll be talking soon. So thanks again and have a great one, and have a happy Thanksgiving if I don't speak to both of you
Thank you.
again.
Yeah,
You
you
too.
too. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yes.
See ya.
Ciao, everybody.